Make, Senator Joyce, can you hold on? Clerk, can you pause his time and return his minutes so he does not use them? So, Senator Osotsi, you can proceed.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Do you want to be informed by Senator Hezena from her wealth of experience?
Madam Speaker, I've heard so many information from members. Let me proceed.
Proceed.
Let me proceed. So, Madam Speaker, what I was trying to say before I was interrupted, that education is so important to the country that it should be given priority in budget making. I appreciate that the budget has increased to 28%, but we can put more money in education so that we make education basically free. And that would be the most important gift we can give to Kenyans, because with education, as Senator Muma has said, it becomes an equalizer, so that many other things that indirectly rely on education will also be have a multiplier effect on those other things. And I was giving an example that why would we import skills, for example, in road constructions, when we can train our people, our engineers, to be very world-class engineers, so that we spend less money in road construction, for example, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, even ICT, where I belong, this big ICT institution like Safaricom, why would they, for example, import experts from China to do things that if we improved the capacity of our own local ICT engineers, we would reduce the cost of doing that, and that will have a multiplier effect on our education. So my view is that education is such a critical aspect to our life that the government needs to consider making education free by increasing budgetary allocation to that sector, and then the other things will flow in, including the things which Senator Cheregei is always very protective, the things of going to Singapore. We can go to Singapore through software, not necessarily hardware. We have to look at these things, software and hardware. What do we need to invest in? It is not necessarily brick and mortar. We can invest more in health so that we have a healthy society. We can invest more in education so that we have an educated society, and therefore everything else will flow. Madam Speaker, even talking about investment in education, we have a lot of money in this country. What we are lacking is just appropriate allocation, Madam Speaker, and wastages in government. Madam Speaker, it doesn't make sense at all that one institution in government or a small office in government can be given 17 billion. What do they need that money for? When we are talking about underfunding of education, when we are talking about collapse of our universities in this country, our universities are collapsing because of funding. And yet, we are putting money in places where ordinarily we should be saving money, Mr. Speaker. So that is why some of us, when we question this myth of saying we are going to some other small country in the Asia, and yet we cannot make quick fixes to our software including education, including health, then we are lying to ourselves and basically not moving in the right direction. So the point I want to say, Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, that this motion is timely, but how I wished we looked at the entire education sector and try to make sure that education is prioritized, is properly funded, and not just primary or secondary education, but also tertiary education. Madam Speaker, for example, the technical training colleges. It was a good concept. No, I still have time. It was a good concept, Madam Speaker, but our vocational training centers in in the counties are dying. They have actually died. Like in my own county, most of them are died. There is nothing much happening there. We would want the government to revert back to the old approach of co-funding of vocational training centers, so that a lot of young people in the villages who cannot go to colleges or universities can have a chance to go and learn skills like masonry, carpentry, metalwork, and all that. And that can help them in their villages to sustain themselves.
What's your point of order, Senator Hezena?
Madam Speaker, again, it is on a point of a statement of facts. You know, I really respect our ranking member, the distinguished senator from Vihiga. But is it in order? Okay, thank you for that correction. Madam Speaker, is it in order for the senator for Vihiga to allege that Singapore is a small country when its GDP ranks way higher than Kenya's GDP? And also, it is important, Madam Speaker, for him to restrict his arguments to maybe the confines of Western Kenya. Because, Madam Speaker, when he talks about priority areas, as much as education is very important in our country, there are other very dire priority areas, like access to that education is a huge problem in Samburu. Madam Speaker, secondly, there are people who are starving in some parts of Kenya for lack of a basic commodity like water. Dams are a priority in some parts of Kenya, Madam Speaker. It is important that he bases his arguments on facts and speaks as a national leader, as the deputy party leader of the Orange Democratic Movement. Thank you.
Hezena,
Madam,
what was your point of order based on?
Madam Speaker, it was based on a statement of facts by referring to Singapore, which we aspire to go as Kenya, as a small country.
Senator
it's not a small
Hezena,
country.
when you rise on a point of order, you should always state what standing order you are rising on. We know that is a standing order 105, and Senator Otsotsi, you can proceed and respond to that and continue winding up your submissions.
Madam Speaker, you know it's important that some of these members learn from us, but that was not a point of order. Let me proceed. Madam Speaker, I was saying that it is important that we session on issues of brick and mortar should not be the approach. The approach should also look at the software aspects of our lives, and that includes education and health. Mr. Speaker, I support, but as I earlier said, how I wish this motion was making a resolution that the House resolves and not the House urges, because we do not want to waste our time here discussing very good things which no one implements, Madam Speaker. I support.
Thank you. Otsi, and once again, I am not Mr. Speaker. Please remind yourself and remind yourself again. I might not excuse it again. Senator Kisang William.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'll not repeat the mistake that has been done by my colleague, because you're my neighbor here. Madam Speaker, as I rise to support this particular motion, maybe for the motion not to become a talk show, because what we are doing now basically is a talk show. And we used to do a lot of this talk show, both in Senate and National Assembly, because when you say we urge, you know that urging, as soon as we fought on this particular motion, it will go nowhere, because even the implementation committee, which is basically the standing committee on education, will do nothing, because the House will not have resolved. I wish maybe the move of the motion, if it would be allowed, maybe to redraft it so that we resolve as a House to ensure that our teachers who are training in teacher training colleges are included in the funding model. And even the funding model, Honorable Speaker, to be renamed. We changed the name from universities funding model to higher education funding model, because this particular model is benefiting those in the university, should benefit those in teacher training colleges, should benefit those in KMTC, and also our DVETs and national polytechnics, Honorable Speaker, because those, especially those who are going to teacher primary colleges, Madam Speaker, most of them are from very poor background. I saw you were very surprised that when Senator Muma was speaking, up to actually 1990, all those who went to the university, even those who were in teacher training colleges, they used to pay nothing. P1 teachers, diploma teachers, and the universities. Students were not paying anything. They were being fed, they were being accommodated, they were being given a stipend, which we used to call boom, Madam Speaker, which was 5,040. And if you divide 5,040 by 4, it was more than 1,000 a month. And primary teachers then used to earn like about 800. So basically, somebody who was in the university was earning more than a teacher that time. And we can't go back to those days, because now numbers in the universities, numbers in colleges have increased. We have more students, we have more universities. Maybe what we need to do to also alleviate the financial crisis in our universities, Madam Speaker, is we need to go back. We need to reintroduce Model 2, Madam Speaker, because I remember in the early 2000, after around 2012, 2014 or so, Madam Speaker, the parallel program in our public universities used to support the universities. The universities were not dependent on the exchequer. They were not dependent on treasury, because they were getting money by the parallel program, Madam Speaker. Because there are some parents who are endowed, they are willing to pay extra. Because if your child is called to a particular course, but they can still qualify to do a different and more competitive course, then the parents can be allowed to pay for them using Module 2, Madam Speaker, which will assist, which will ensure the universities have own source revenue that will support the universities, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, University Higher Education Loans Board also needs to, I don't know what they need to do, because they need to sit down, devise ways of ensuring those who have gone, who have benefited from Higher Education Loans Board loans, Madam Speaker, repay. Some of them, those who have benefited, they just repay them. They pay off, maybe when they are we are seeking for positions, political positions, or when they apply for positions that requires clearance from Higher Education Loans Board. They need to devise and find ways of ensuring those who benefited from the loan, both who are within the country, doing business, or employed, or even out of the country, so that they continue repaying the loans. Because this particular loan, Madam Speaker, was supposed to be a revolving fund, which was expected after a while, the exchequer, the National Treasury, was not supposed to fund them anymore. It was supposed to fund the Higher Education Loans Board by resources that they will have gotten from those who benefited in the past. And they have not achieved this. So it means there are some systemic issues within Higher Education Loans Board that they need to relook at, get a good system to follow up those who benefited from the loan, Madam Speaker, so that they don't have to go to Treasury for additional resources. They should be having enough. They also need to partner with the counties, because in our committees, both CPIC and CPAC, Madam Speaker, most of the counties are giving out loans to university students, to college students, and they are unable to make recoveries because they don't know what to do. They can partner with Higher Education Loans Board, and then the Higher Education Loans Board gets a percentage of agency, which will boost the income, Madam Speaker, that they can give to the students. Madam Speaker, You know, sometimes, I don't know why we left the primary teacher students in the TTCs from this particular funding model, because most of them are from very poor backgrounds, especially because in the recent past, our National Assembly MPs, most of them have opened up teacher training colleges across the constituencies. So it means the reach to go to the colleges is it's within the areas. And most of these rural constituencies, Madam Speaker, most of the children are from poor background. They cannot afford to pay this particular school fees. That's why we are saying it is important that they are included in the university funding model, which we are saying we change it to higher education funding model to benefit them, Madam Speaker. So that at least, you know, our teachers, they don't get turned away from colleges. When exams are nearing, they are told to go back and look for school fees, and they don't have, and the bursaries, both from the county and the constituencies, might not be enough. In fact, there was a motion here, Madam Speaker, that we should have pursued it and even converted it into a bill, Madam Speaker, where we said all the bursaries, the presidential bursary, bursary from CDF, bursary from the counties, can we put all of them, including the Higher Education Loans Board resources, we put them in one place, and then we make education free in Kenya from all the way from primary to colleges, so that this issue of classifications should not have arisen, Madam Speaker. So, Madam Speaker, people have complained about the mean testing. So maybe it's also important that we ask the Minister of Education to relook at this particular system. What is this mean testing? What are you looking for? Because it's very easy to also follow up. If a child was in a public primary school, went to a public secondary school, and they've been supported all along, maybe by well-wishers, they've been supported by bursaries. So these are the things that you need to look at. Because sometimes, Madam Speaker, you know, when a student is putting maybe these parameters in the system, some of them, you can say you have a cow. You know your parents have 2 cows. And maybe one of the cows, you cannot get more than 2 liters. Is that really something that you can say it's a cow? And there's a cow that is maybe, it can give you 20, 40, 50 liters. And that is maybe worth about 150,000. And there is a cow that is about 15,000. If you sell that particular cow, then what happens? So they need to relook at these parameters where they are looking at to achieve a mean testing for each of the students, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I know those days, those of us who went to the university free when it was still free, but it was not really free, because I think the loan was very minimal, because some of us, we cleared the university around 91, we still paid, because I remember from 1990, then that particular time, they changed, and we went to KCB and other banks to collect our boom. But before then, they used to bring cash to the universities, and then you go to the nearest bank, was it Post Bank, you're given a pass, where every time you withdraw, they deduct what you have withdrawn. You know, Kalwale is looking at me because he also went through the same process, but it was not free, but eventually we paid. And I want to report to this house that I'm among those who has cleared. I paid about 56,000 for the 3 years I was in the university. So it's also important we urge our friends, Kenyans who are listening to us, please, if you benefited from Higher Education Loans Board, start paying if you have not paid, so that the children of Kenyans from poor background can benefit, because government was able to help you. Please pay your debt so that those who are in need may be able to benefit. I remember, Madam Speaker, before going to the university, we had to go through youth service en route to the university. And it was part of discipline, ensuring that, you know, those you go to the colleges, they instill discipline in you, so that by the time you are finishing also, you are all-round Kenyan, Madam Speaker. So basically, let's relook at this, because currently the budget for Ministry of Education stands at 28%. The 4-point-something trillion that we are saying we have in the budget, half of it is going to be debt. What basically remains is about 2.7. 700 divided by 2.7 is close to 30%, which is basically 28. So we need to devise ways of ensuring we raise funds for our education systems so that it becomes an equalizer. There are people, some of us, our parents never went to school. We didn't have resources to go to school. It was courtesy of our education loans board, and I mean the government, that we are able to go to the university and get employed and go back to the society and assist. In fact, for your information, some of us used what we used to call the so-called boom to pay school fees for our siblings. Now, how about those who are poor now in the university? They are being chased away from class. They can't even afford to eat a meal, ugali and boga. They can't afford. So let's relook at this particular issue and let us reward the motion so that this thing becomes implementable. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I support.
Thank you, Senator Kisang. We are almost, the motion, the time intended for the debate on this motion is almost expiring because it's intended to take 3 hours, so we have very little time before we close out on that. And I have 3 requests and need time also for the mover to reply. So maybe is to ask senators to exercise, because my option is to cut down, to cut back when time expires for the debate. So maybe the senator who takes up should consider the rest of the requests and consider their colleagues to share that time. Otherwise, from my seat, I will cut back when time is up. Senator Agnes Mudama.
Madam Speaker, nashukuru kwa kunipa hii nafasi ya kuchangia huu mjadala wa Bwana Nyutu, Senator Nyutu. Kwanza nikikupongeza kwa kuleta huu mjadala kwa maana ni wa muhimu sana. Mheshimiwa Speaker, mimi nataka kusema walimu ni watu wa muhimu sana katika serikali yetu ama katika taifa yetu ya Kenya, kwa sababu kama hakuna walimu hatuwezi kuwa na speaker kama wewe ambaye unaweza kuketi hapo na kuongoza ili bunge la seneti. Hatuwezi kuwa na hata president, hatuwezi kuwa na maseneta kama sisi. Kwa hivyo walimu ni watu wa muhimu sana, na ningeomba Madam Speaker, huu mjadala ama hii motion iweze kuangaliwa kwa utaratibu sana, ili walimu pia nao ama wanafunzi wa vyuo vya walimu waweze kupata boom kama vile wale wengine wanapata, ya kuweza kuwasaidia. Madam Speaker, wacha nikuambie uwazi kabisa ni kwamba tunapata simu nyingi sana kutoka kwa wanafunzi wa vyuo vya walimu wakitaka tuwalipie, na mbali unajua kama sisi maseneta hatuna pesa za kuweza kulipia wanafunzi wowote school fees. Lakini Madam Speaker, ningeomba sana hao walimu ama wanafunzi wa vyuo vikuu vya walimu waweze kupata pesa kama vile wale wengine wote wanapata kutoka kwa vyuo vile vingine, kutoka mpaka TVET wanapata, na mpaka wanafunzi wa secondary school wanapata. Na sijui hao walisaulikia wapi, na ni watu gani hao walikuwa wanatengeneza hii mambo ya kupatia watoto pesa za kuweza kuwaendelesha kwa mafunzo ya elimu walikosa. Madam Speaker, wacha niseme ya kwamba hatufai kuwa tunapatia wale wengine wote pesa za kuweza kuwasaidia kusoma, na hawa ambao ni wa colleges za walimu hatuwezi kuwapatia. Na sijui hii ilipitia wapi. Na bwana Seneta Nyutu, na kushukuru sana kwa kuleta huu mjadala, kwa sababu hii kama itaangaliwa vizuri na hii kamiti ya walimu na waweze kuinclude, hii itasaidia sana 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 sana, kwa sababu wanafunzi wetu wa vyuo vikuu vya walimu wataweza kusoma bila matatizo kama vyuo vile vingine vyote, na wataweza kusaidika, na tutaweza kuwa na walimu wengi zaidi, na elimu pia itaweza kusonga mbele sana zaidi na zaidi. Mimi ningesema hata wangeweza kuongezewa, na especially wale wanatoka kutoka kwa familia maskini sana, waweze kuangaliwa hata wakiwa kwa hizi vyuo vikuu.
Senator Agnes, no, Senator Agnes, just take your seat now. It's time for the mover to reply, and the mover is persuaded to donate some of the minutes to the two remaining senators. Resume your seat, Senator Agnes. Proceed, Senator Joe Nyoto.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And just like you have indicated, we have two senators online, that is Senator Consolata and Senator Bonnie Halwale. And Madam Speaker, because I do not have a lot to say as I reply, Madam Speaker, allow me to donate 5 minutes to Senator Consolata and 5 minutes to Senator Bonnie Halwale, respectively, and then I'll take another 5 minutes. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Senator Nyoto, for that consideration. Senator Bonnie Halwale. Stick to your minutes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, in a condensed fashion, the country remembers that in 2003, the biggest change that took place after election was the announcement by President Mwai Kibaki that there shall be free primary education. And 1 million Kenyan children came from nowhere and joined school. That was leadership. Madam Speaker, fast forward 2022, the biggest announcement that came was that we will have the new funding model and solidifying the competency-based system of education. Unfortunately, Madam Speaker, the new funding model and the competency-based curricula have both failed completely. And Madam Speaker, it's a shame that the failure of CBC has resulted in the loss of free education that we are having in this country, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, we have to accept and be the adults in the room and accept that our oversight role demands of us to call out when things are not being done right. Madam Speaker, the top 8 African economies, from South Africa, Madam Speaker, to Egypt, to Algeria, to Nigeria, to Morocco in position 5, and Kenya in position 6, and Angola and Ghana in 7 and 8, in all those top African economies, education is free. It's only in Kenya, which is one of those countries, that we do not have free education. What are we planning for our youth? Madam Speaker, I know that the biggest argument has been the growing population of children. Please, those people who are propagating that misinformation must stop, because South Africa, free education, they have a bigger population than us. Egypt, free education, their population is in hundreds of millions. Nigeria, free education, their population is over 200 million. We are visiting a crime against a generation, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the long and short of this challenge is that we have enough money, even the 28% that is allocated for education is enough, but it is subjected to financial mismanagement and corruption, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, financial mismanagement, colleagues have spoken to it, this nonsense of bursaries, presidential, governors' bursaries, and CDF bursaries are just avenues for corruption. The country remembers that only last month, the Auditor General released a report which said 2.1 billion Kenya shillings has been corruptly handled by members of the National Assembly of Kenya. And nothing is moving. No action can be taken because the poor guys there cannot oversight themselves. And out of that, the Auditor General was able to single out actual CDF committees, and the heads of those committees are known. There is a report, there is in that report I have read, Madam Speaker, that the MP of Embakasi, I think Embakasi is west or central, the MP spent 62 million shillings training saloonists because those saloonists are voters. It's a shame. I support.
Thank you, Senator Boni. Senator Wakwabubi Consolata.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for according me this opportunity to contribute towards this momentous or rather substantive motion by Senator Nyuthu. I'm a product of teaching, and I want to reiterate this point that teachers actually need a dignified lifestyle, and by looking at this motion, I think it is one of the avenues that will improve on their welfare, even as they join the teaching colleges. While I was growing up, I used to be told, and I quote, that teaching is a noble profession. Indeed, it is a sacred profession. It's a career of altruism because it is selfless. And I want to concur with what the rest of the speakers, honorable senators, have presented on the floor of the House today, because we are looking at an avenue to churn out a nation's human capital that is highly trained with a lot of quality presentations, because at times we compromise quality for quantity. So as a product of the same profession, I want to echo the fact that this inclusion aligns with the student-centered funding model, the goal that was intended for, to provide financial aid to the teachers, because most of them actually come from marginalized and minority areas. Some of them come from impoverished family backgrounds that are less privileged or underprivileged. So we want to echo that. And maybe as a house of legislation, although I stand to be guided and corrected, that if at this juncture we are able maybe to craft a subsidiary legislation to buttress this substantive motion. Otherwise, I want to support the motion by Senator Nyuthu and also call upon the House and maybe the Standing Committee on Education and other related agencies that we look at the role of Articles 43(1)(f), the role of Article 53(1)(b), the role of Article 55(a), 56(b), and 54(1)(b) in the Constitution of Kenya 2010. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I support the motion.
Thank you, Senator Consolata. Senator Nyoto, you can proceed to reply.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Allow me to say that I am very pleased with the very rich contribution and support that this motion has received from members from both sides of the House, Madam Speaker. And I wish that we can have that unanimity in all the matters that we prosecute in this particular House, Madam Speaker, because most of them are of national importance, but because of partisan interests, sometimes you're not able to agree. So, Madam Speaker, allow me to say that the spirit in the support of this motion is something that I really want to appreciate. And, Madam Speaker, allow me also to say, to thank the members, all of them who have contributed to this particular motion. And, Madam Speaker, even some of the contributions that were made, actually, I had not even thought about them, because there are senators also who thought that we can think of funding even other institutions that have been left out, or other levels of education that have been left out in the new funding model of generally to say that all of us are agreed that no learner should be discriminated against, because we'll be going against the spirit of Article 43 of our Constitution, Madam Speaker. And so we have also had an occasion to be corrected by some of the members that contributed. And although they threw the challenge, and I think specifically Senator Osotsi and Senator Kisan, that we should, going forward, say the Senate resolves and not the Senate urges, so that we can be able to have this implemented by the Implementation Committee, Madam Speaker. And so these contributions are very rich, and I think they were very informative to also you as truly. And, Madam Speaker, I think this is a motion that was very timely. And because I can see that the chair of Education Committee, Senator Bertie Montet, is still in the House, and I thank her for staying through the contributions to this motion, Madam Speaker, I pray that she can do in the committee what needs to be done to see to it that we do not just urge the Minister of Education to implement this, but see to it that it is actually done. Madam Speaker, I have the benefit, I've been served with a list of members who contributed. And if you allow me, and if time allows, allow me to mention them. These are Senators Wahome Mamatinga, Senator Edwin Sifuna, Senator Danson Mugatana, Senator Johnston Mwaruma, Senator Karen Nyamu, Senator Catherine Muma, Senator Abbas Sheikh, Senator Godfrey Osotsi, Senator William Kisang, Senator Agnes Kavindu, Senator Boni Halwale, and Senator Consolata Wakwabub. Yeah, and so I want to thank those senators for contributing to this motion, Madam Speaker, and I want to say that this is the spirit that should guide us in our deliberations in this House, like I had said, Madam Speaker. Allow me to say that where we differed, Madam Speaker, of course we are about to differ, because we, each one of us has their own heads, and of course they use their heads. Madam Speaker, with those few remarks, I beg to reply, but ask and request you that because we may not have enough numbers, Madam Speaker, if you could deem it fit, pursuant to Standing Order number 63.3, I request that you, the putting of the question be deferred to a later date, Madam Speaker, to allow a situation where we'll have an adequate number of members to be able to answer. I have already replied, but I think I leave it to Madam Speaker. So I thought, Madam Speaker, I think I leave it to your discretion as per Standing Order number 1, Madam Speaker. If you know, the members that are urging me have just come in, but
Senator Nyoto, I think you have done justice to your motion. You have already replied to it, and that marks the end. You remember we did not have sufficient time, and we were winding up on the time available for that motion. And also to bring it to your attention that you as truly the speaker contributed to that motion in your absence, and a few more senators. So that marks the end. The putting of the question is deferred. Next order.
Order number 23, the County Government State Officers Removal from Office Procedure Bill, Senate Bills number 34 of 2024, second reading.
That motion is deferred.
Order number 24, the County Government's Amendment Bill, Senate Bills number 39 of 2024, second reading.
Senator George Bugwa is not present, so that order is deferred. Next order.
Order number 25, the Street Naming and Property Addressing System Bill, Senate Bills number 43 of 2024, second reading.
Senator Fatuma Dulo is not present. That order is deferred. Next.
Order number 26, the County Government's Law Amendment Bill, Senate Bills number 52 of 2024, second reading.
Senator Kaduri Murungi is not in the House, so that order is deferred. Next.
The order number 27, the County Government Laws Amendment Bill, Senate Bills number 14 of 2025.
Senator Abdul Haji is not in the House. That order is deferred. Next.
Order number 28, the National Construction Authority Amendment Bill, Senate Bills number 15 of 2025, second reading.
Senator Eddie Okech, he's not in the House, so that order is deferred. Next.
Order number 29, motion, reports of the Standing Committee on Health on the county oversight and networking engagements in Kitui, Makueni, Machakos, and Kiambu counties.
Chairperson Health Committee, Senator Madago, is not in the House. That order is deferred. Next.
Order number 30, motion, delinking junior secondary schools from primary schools.
Senator Mwenda Gataya, not in the House. That order is deferred. That's the last order for the day. What's your point of procedure? Proceed, Senator.
Madam Speaker, I
Cherargei.
hope you will indulge me understanding order number 1. And the matter that I have waited to raise under Article 171, sorry, Madam Speaker, for I want so that my colleagues, 118, But let me start with standing on the number one, on observations of. Madam Speaker, since I don't know whether you still sit in SBC,
he has made. That makes it even worse.
Focus, Senator Enoch.
But if he insists that I persevere, I will persevere, Madam Speaker, and bring to the attention of Senator Cherage that when I personally approached the clerks on the table,
I want to ask Senator Okongo Mugeni if he's gracious enough. I'm willing to go with him to State House. We sit with the President. We ensure that the SGR, Madam Speaker, passes through Nyamira and Kisii. Because, Madam Speaker, can you protect me from the senior council? Can you protect me?
Senator Cherage, can you finish your submission on the earlier points?
Correct. That is why I'm saying, if Senator Senior Councilor Okongo Mugeni is saying Article 118 should not be a priority, I want the people of Nyamira and Kisii to see when Senator Okongo Mugeni is saying that the railway should pass, it should be in public, Madam Speaker, and that is what I'm arguing. Finally, Madam Speaker, I will be demanding through your office that the IT audit be done of the system, and even the OAG can do it, Madam Speaker, you know very well. Because what happened, if there was internal disruption of live proceedings, Madam Speaker, it will affect, and I know Parliamentary Broadcasting Unit will upload the answered later. So my argument is, under Article 229, the Office of the Auditor General can do the IT audit of the Senate answered, so that my assertions is very correct, because at least Senator Wambua said there was internal disruption of the proceedings, which is a serious matter, contravening Article 118. But to appeal to Senator Okongo Mugeni, who is a member of ODM and a broad base, I will go with him to the State House. We'll solve a small matter of ensuring the SGR passes Kisii and Kisumu, Madam Speaker. So, Madam Speaker, I raise my case and I request for favorable ruling on this matter. I know it's an administrative issue, but it is very critical for the country, because these proceedings should be open and accessible to public through any platforms, either physically or online or through TVs, Madam Speaker. And we thank Kenya Broadcast Corporation, KBC, for tirelessly ensuring that proceedings from Parliament are accessible to Kenyans across the country through KBC. I yield back, Madam Speaker, and request the senator we can go to State House after this.
Honorable Charadige. Give Senator Onyonka 1 second, 30 seconds.
Today,
Sorry, Senator Omugeni. I apologize for that.
I've been christened Senator Onyonka. Madam Speaker, you know, we were at university with you. And Senator Onyonka has never been to that school of law where we were with you.
Apologize for that. It's Omugeni.
Yeah, but you know, Madam Speaker, the people of Nyamira, people of Kisii region, I'm sure they are watching these proceedings, or they will access these proceedings from YouTube. It's not proper for Senator Cherargei to mislead the people of Nyamira, the people of Kisii, that the only way the railway line will traverse through Nyamira or Kisii is only if I go to State House and kneel before the president. Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, that is not right. We deserve, Madam Speaker, access to the usage of the railway line the way my brothers in Bomet, in Kericho, in Narok,